on some hush puppy shoes. Let's play it one time. Woo!
We're going to have Bill kick this off with his discussion of a sister act quartet from Ohio in the alternative rock genre. So, Bill, the YouTube stage is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Bob. I'm going to talk about a band called The Breeders, and what Bob is referencing is actually a later incarnation that was the more famous of a version of The Breeders. I'm going to talk about the initial inception, which is where the super part of the supergroup comes in. Back in the late 80s, there were two bands based in Boston. They were not originally from Boston, but that's where they kind of broke through the underground, one the Pixies and the other Throwing Muses. So these two outfits, both in kind of the post-punk arena, completely different sounds, but they, were playing to the same sorts of audiences and the same locations, and they would cross paths regularly. And the Pixies, the bass player was Kim Deal, and she had essentially gotten thwarted, like a lot of people do in bands, had been writing her own material and really had no way to get it listened to. So she was looking for another outlet. And because of, running across Throwing Muses, which was a band with two stepsisters, Kristen Hirsch and Tanya Donnelly, who were also getting well known in this arena. She and Tanya, who also had that same sort of issue, her stepsister was essentially the leader of Throwing Muses. She needed a place for her stuff to get heard. So they decided they would form this side project called The Breeders, and they roped in a couple of other people, in this space, kind of lesser known, but certainly from bands that were known, heard of. As the bass player, Josephine Wiggs from the UK, and Jim McPherson, who was from, another kind of indie band. But the key thing was to have Kim Deal and Tanya Donnelly working together. So it sounded great on paper. The problem was the way it had been set up was initially it was going to be, as I said, a sideline project. And because they were on different labels, they couldn't collaborate in terms of how the music would be or the songwriting would work. So the idea was that Kim would do the first album and the second album would be Tanya's work. And, that was the way they went into it. In the meantime, the two bands that they were prominently associated with were going through their own struggles. But the project went ahead. They recorded the album, which became Pod, which was an interesting one, kind of an extension of the Pixie sound. And you can tell why, because it's essentially Kim's approach, the stuff that she couldn't get heard in the Pixies, very angular guitar, kind of cryptic words, very interesting song stylings, and then her singing along with Tanya's primarily backing vocals.
When I was a painter, I painted you well. Too bad I have to die. You brought the essentials, perversion, appeal, and many lovers at one time.
Make a really kind of unique thing, and it's engineered by Steve Albani, who's kind of a well-known engineer producer in the indie space. He did a really great job on it. The record sounds good. The problem here, as far as I'm concerned, is you've got a lot of potential. The band situation becomes much more volatile because the Pixies end up staggering on for another year, and Tanya has already left the Throwing Muses, so she needs an outlet for her stuff and a job essentially. So Kim is staying with the Pixies. Tanya takes all of the material that they had worked on for the second record that was going to be her version of the Pixie or of the Breeders, and releases it on her new band called Belly. And so what would have been a really dynamic, ongoing, circumstantial collaboration becomes really a one-off. Kim's version of the Breeders, backed by Tanya, and then what would have been the second part of the Breeders is just Tanya Donnelly alone. The Breeders go on once the Pixies break up. Kim gets her sister, her twin sister, Kelly, to join on guitar, and they have a kind of a real breakthrough hit with their second album, which the hit song is Cannonball, which a lot of people are probably even familiar with today. It was a real big hit. They toured with Nirvana, and it was a good career. It's pretty much over now, but Kim does pop up periodically, working on some solo stuff. Tanya also has done a lot of solo work. That's pretty much tailed off too, but she periodically appears. If you look out on Bandcamp, things are still happening. But this is kind of one of those great opportunities where a real ongoing thing could have happened. It didn't happen because of things outside of the group. Usually that's not the case.
Put on some hush puppy shoes. Let's play it one time. Woo!